What I saw was fun, never anything inappropriate. What I saw was work and play at work and fun. Mrs. Cosby was a frequent visitor to the studio. She was there a lot. That's what I saw.
What on earth is happening with the Cosby Show cast right now? Because let me tell you, Phylicia Rashad just stepped out of her graceful, quiet queen image and dropped a verbal bomb so loud it could have shaken every Hollywood red carpet, and the target tempest bled. So yes, Vanessa Huxtable herself, the one who always seemed sweet and harmless, turns out, maybe those smiles were hiding claws sharper than anyone imagined. But here is the jaw-dropper: this entire storm erupted just hours before Malcolm Jamal Warner's sudden, heartbreaking, and deeply suspicious death. Not days, not weeks, hours. Coincidence? Or is there something far darker hiding beneath those picture-perfect family moments and warm laugh tracks? People came expecting a respectful memorial. What they got instead was a war zone: icy stares, whispered secrets, and shade so sharp it could cut glass. Now, everyone's asking the same burning question: what did Phylicia Rashad know, and why did she wait until the cameras were nearly gone to pull Tempest into the spotlight? In Malcolm's final words, according to insiders, they were colder than anyone could have imagined, the kind of words that make you think he knew something was about to happen. This is not your typical TV cast drama. This is years of tension, silent betrayals, and power moves finally exploding in the open. Picture it: Phylicia Rashad, sitcom royalty, and the epitome of class, allegedly calling out her TV daughter just hours before Malcolm Jamal Warner's unexplained death, and those last words exchanged between them reportedly as heated and unfiltered as a Real Housewives reunion, only without the cameras to cut the feed or the PR teams to clean it up. But let's rewind, because this was no petty backstage spat. This had all the chaos of a full-blown Hollywood showdown: less glamour, more red flags. The whispers online and in the streets suggest this was the final spark in a pressure cooker that had been building for decades. Long buried grudges, carefully hidden rivalries, and tension disguised under layers of sitcom smiles. Behind the scenes, Phylicia's calm, poised image may have been nothing more than a cover for a volcano aimed squarely at her on-screen daughter. In Tempest, she was not just rubbing people the wrong way. Insiders claim she was bulldozing trust, forming secret alliances, and making power plays behind the cameras. People had whispered about her diva behavior for years, but no one saw the level of chaos that was about to unfold. So here is the question that refuses to go away: what really happened in those last strange hours before Malcolm Jamal Warner was discovered unresponsive in the pool of that Beverly Hills estate? Why was Phylicia seen leaving a private studio looking visibly shaken after a closed-door meeting with Tempest and a small group of Cosby Show cast members? And how did decades of hidden drama lead to a death so shocking that half of Hollywood is calling it a setup, while the other half scrambles to bury secrets they thought would stay hidden forever? Leaked audio, allegedly pulled from a studio staffer's iPhone, reportedly captured the whole thing: raised voices, tense silences, and a woman who sounds an awful lot like Phylicia Rashad finally snapping after years of holding it all in. And I quote, "You are not flipping this story again, Tempest. I covered for you once, but I am done biting my tongue." Let that sink in for a second, because clearly, this was not their first quiet standoff. This time, Phylicia did not just show up with sharp words. She came armed. Literally, she arrived carrying folders, the old school kind, the kind stuffed with receipts from the early 90s. According to one insider, those files were a goldmine of scandal, missing funds, manipulation, betrayal, and even outright career sabotage. The source, who claims to have worked closely with the cast during promotional events, said that what was supposed to be a healing circle turned into an all-out shouting match. And Malcolm, poor Malcolm, as always, he tried to hold it together, stepping in as the peacemaker, but this time, even he lost control in the middle of the chaos. He allegedly shouted, "We have been lying to ourselves for decades. This is not a family, it is a cover-up." A cover-up of what? That is where things take a turn from dramatic to downright sinister. Online sleuths are convinced this runs far deeper than petty grudges, whispers of fake contracts, ghost-written memoirs, and a quiet falling out between Malcolm and Tempest that ended their friendship years ago. Sources claim Phylicia had tried for years to maintain peace, but network executives shut her down every time, terrified of damaging the spotless image of the Cosby Show legacy. Then, just before Malcolm's shocking death, everything came to a head. Word is, Phylicia received something explosive: an anonymous package inside, a mysterious USB stick, a stack of handwritten letters, and, most disturbing of all, a dusty, grainy black and white VHS tape from 1993. What was on it? Allegedly, footage from a production meeting that could have changed everything. The online rumor mill says the tape exposed a damning truth: Tempest was secretly plotting her own spin-off show behind everyone's backs, breaking contracts, and stepping over careers without hesitation. If even part of that is true, no wonder Phylicia was on edge once she watched the tape. Insiders claim she wasted no time. She called an emergency, closed-door meeting with the original cast, no PR people, no outsiders, and when they gathered, it was chaos from the start. The tension snapped like cheap marble under pressure. Voices rose, accusations flew, and right before leaving that room, Malcolm allegedly locked eyes with Tempest and delivered the coldest Line of the night, "You took everything from me, you just never thought the truth would come back to bite you." Then his silence, the kind that chills the air. No one moved, no one spoke. Malcolm walked out, and hours later, he was gone. Police called it an accidental drowning, but that has not stopped internet detectives from digging in timelines, blurry photos, cryptic posts. The theories are spreading like wildfire. Some believe Malcolm did not walk out of that studio alone, others think the words exchanged in that room followed him into the shadows, and a few are convinced the truth is being buried faster than a shredded NDA locked in a vault. Meanwhile, Tempest has been silent. No social media post, no tribute, no public statement. She reportedly skipped every memorial event tied to Malcolm's passing, even pulling out of a podcast appearance just days after the drama exploded. So, what is it? Guilt, shock, or just painfully bad timing? You decide. Phylicia, meanwhile, is doing what she has always done, keeping her composure in public. Her team released a calm, polished thoughts and prayers statement for Malcolm's family, but behind closed doors, insiders insist she is unraveling, skipping interviews, disappearing from public view, and, according to whispers, even hiring a private investigator to dig into the truth behind this tangled mess. Because let's be honest, accident or not, something about this whole situation feels wrong. Too many gaps in the story, too many questions without answers, and the fans, they have gone full FBI. Social media is flooded, TikTok breakdowns, Reddit rabbit holes, and Twitter threads so long they might as well be novels. People are connecting dots, pulling up old Cosby Show episodes, and claiming they see eerie foreshadowing in scenes no one paid attention to before. Others are revisiting throwback interviews and behind the scenes footage, zooming in on suspicious glances, stiff body language, and smiles that suddenly look forced. That old 1991 talk show clip is making the rounds again, the one where Phylicia and Tempest clashed on live TV over loyalty and professionalism. At the time, it seemed harmless. Now it looks like the red flags were waving the whole time. By the time the explosive studio showdown ended, one thing was painfully clear: that picture-perfect Cosby Show family image was just that, a picture, a carefully staged illusion, while the real tension stayed buried. And for Phylicia to finally break her silence and unload decades of secrets hours before Malcolm's sudden death, that is not drama, that is detonation. But the biggest question still lingers: why now? I hold her tongue for years while the truth gnawed at her, and what kind of bombshell was Malcolm about to drop? The one someone clearly did not want going public. Here is where it takes a darker turn. An insider who claims they were helping prepare for the memorial the day before the funeral says Phylicia had an emotional breakdown backstage. She allegedly shouted, "I warned him about Tempest. I told him she was not right. Her name is right there in front of everyone." Was that grief talking, guilt, or both? Either way, the timing was ice cold. Then came another anonymous claim from someone close to the Warner family, and this one hits harder. They say Malcolm had been preparing to expose someone just weeks before his death, and he left them with a chilling warning: "If anything happens to me, it will not be an accident. I have enemies in silk gloves." Enemies in silk gloves. If that does not sound like the opening line to a Hollywood thriller, I do not know what does. But let's rewind to the alleged behind-the-scenes power play by Tempest Bledsoe. Rumor has it she had been slowly pushing Malcolm out of major decisions at their shared production company. Even worse, insiders claim she persuaded him to sign off on questionable licensing deals, once directly tied to his own creative rights. And here's the kicker: one leaked document from what is said to be a hacked inbox allegedly shows her signature sitting right next to a glaring blank space where Malcolm's name should have been. That is not just messy, that is madness. Phylicia was not the only one dropping bombs. Multiple Cosby Show alumni who have kept quiet for decades are suddenly whispering the same story. Back in the 90s, Tempest Bledsoe had a reputation, sweet-talking producers, twisting arms behind the scenes, and flipping storylines to make sure she stayed in the spotlight. We all grew up thinking Vanessa Huxtable was the calm, sensible voice of reason, but now it is starting to look like she may have been the mastermind in pearls, smiling in your face while quietly rewriting your lines behind your back. And here is the part that feels almost cinematic. Just 3 months before Malcolm's death, Tempest posted a cryptic Instagram photo of herself standing in front of a mirror with the caption, "Reflection is power, not all masks are ugly." Back then, people brushed it off as artsy and abstract. Now it is giving full-on Marvel villain teaser energy, moody lighting, layered meaning, and a quiet warning hiding in plain sight. Then came the funeral. Every major name was there: Debbie Allen, Raven-Symoné, even a handful of rising Netflix stars, all showing up to honor Malcolm. But what unfolded inside the church left guests in stunned silence. Moments before the service began, a private security detail walked in, not the usual for a Hollywood memorial. Word spread quickly: Tempest had brought her own bodyguards. The reason: she allegedly feared someone might try to retaliate over Malcolm's death. Retaliate at a funeral. One shaken attendee later told reporters that Phylicia Rashad refused to speak during the service, telling those around her she would not lie in front of God, that is not shade, that is a total solar eclipse. And then came the voicemail. A chilling audio clip began circulating online, allegedly sent to one of Malcolm's closest friends, a former co-star. In it, Malcolm's voice reportedly says, "I don't feel safe if something happens. Tell the world I was silenced." No one has confirmed it outright, but AI voice analysis reportedly matched it at 91%. That is not a tech glitch, that is a red flag waving in 4K with sirens blaring from there. Internet detectives clocked in serious overtime. Reddit threads, TikTok truthers, and YouTube breakdowns exploded with theories. Some claim Malcolm and Tempest had been clashing for years over creative control. Others allege she had old Cosby Show footage that could destroy reputations, using it as leverage. And then there is the wildest theory that Malcolm was working on a tell-all memoir, one that would shatter the squeaky clean image of the show, and that powerful people wanted it buried before a single chapter went public. Fans also started noticing strange behavior, longtime colleagues unfollowing each other, avoiding public interactions, and scrubbing old photos together from their social media feeds. Coincidence, or quiet damage control? And then the money trail surfaced. In the months before his death, Malcolm had renegotiated a major Cosby Show syndication deal, a multi-million-dollar agreement, but days after he passed, the deal quietly disappeared. No press release, no explanation. Just gone. Even more alarming, leaked legal documents show Tempest had been granted limited co-executive authority over some of Malcolm's contracts in his final months, giving her the ability to fast-track business decisions while he recovered from minor surgery. Insiders are now asking, fast-tracked what exactly? Another detail raising eyebrows. Tempest was somehow listed as Malcolm's emergency contact in the months before his death. Not his siblings, not his longtime partner, not his grown children, his TV sister. That is not random, that is chess. The deeper fans dig, the stranger it gets. One county insider reportedly leaked that there is quiet talk about inconsistencies in the official timeline. For starters, Malcolm was never supposed to be at that private retreat near Big Bear Lake. He had booked a wellness getaway in Santa Barbara. So how did he end up over 100 miles away in the opposite direction? And why, according to phone records, was Tempest the last person to text him that night? The autopsy only adds more suspicion. It was wrapped up in under 48 hours, sealed, locked down, with no toxicology report released to the public. Then, as fans began flooding social media with questions, Tempest suddenly deleted her entire Twitter account. Defenders say it is all wild gossip stirred up by bored bloggers, but others they are done staying quiet. One retired TV writer posted a cutting Facebook status now making the rounds. Stick around long enough in Hollywood and you learn one thing: people smile for the camera, then stab you backstage, and just when you think it cannot get darker, it does. A ghostwriter claiming to have worked on Malcolm's memoir dropped a bombshell on an anonymous Substack. He says the manuscript was nearly complete and the final chapters were explosive allegations of betrayal, lawsuits, and broken loyalty that could topple reputations. But near the end, Malcolm's paranoia spiked. The ghostwriter claims Malcolm refused to conduct meetings over the phone or via email. He insisted on in-person discussions only, with no electronics in the room, no laptops, no recording devices. That is next level, I'm being watched energy. And then, it gets creepier. Just days after Malcolm passed, the same ghostwriter who had been working on his tell-all memoir came home to find his office completely trashed. And no, this was not a robbery, it was chaos. Drawers yanked out, papers scattered across the floor, files overturned, yet nothing was stolen. Not a single laptop, not a dollar in cash. This was not about valuables, this was about finding something someone had been digging, not for money, but for secrets. Even Phylicia Rashad, usually the picture of calm and camera-ready poise, has been looking visibly rattled in public when paparazzi asked if she believed foul play was involved. Her response was cold and cryptic. "I've said what I needed to say, may he rest in peace." That is not closure, that is encrypted drama. And then came another unsettling revelation when a source close to the funeral director allegedly spilled word is, Tempest pushed hard for Malcolm to be cremated immediately. No second viewing, no delay, just ashes and done. But his family stepped in and shut it down, stalling the process by 24 hours. And now everyone is asking the same question: why the rush? What was she trying to erase before the world had a chance to see it? As the days pass and the smoke refuses to clear, the whispers have turned into roars. This is no longer just online gossip, this is Hollywood history being rewritten in real time. Theories are multiplying like wildfire, and Malcolm's fans are not letting this slide. Who could blame them? Too many red flags, too many sudden disappearances, too much silence from people who were supposed to be his closest allies. And if you thought the drama peaked at the funeral, oh no, baby, that was just the warm-up. Days after the memorial, a bombshell batch of private emails leaked between Malcolm and a close confidant. In those messages, he wrote, "I don't think I'll make it to 55, people want me gone." That is not vague, that is bone deep, chilling. Just when it felt like the spiral could not go any deeper, Hollywood said, hold my champagne because here comes the real explosion. Sources claim that only hours before Malcolm Jamal Warner was found dead, Phylicia Rashad allegedly confronted Tempest Bledsoe backstage at a Hush Hush family reunion event, but this was not a televised reunion special or a staged nostalgia shoot. This was a private tribute for Malcolm, part of an upcoming mental health awareness project that barely anyone knew he was working on, and that is where the web-snapped eyewitnesses say Phylicia, dressed in her trademark regal queen elegance, pulled Tempest aside and told her, "You think secrets stay buried forever? You're about to find out the hard way." Was that a warning, a threat, or the truth finally spilling from a woman who had kept quiet for far too long? Let's not forget, Phylicia Rashad is not some background extra from a cancelled pilot. She is an icon, an educator, black TV royalty, a Columbia University professor, and someone who probably knows enough industry dirt to shut down half of Hollywood. When she speaks, people stop scrolling and listen. And here's the kicker: a crew member, now conveniently off the grid and sipping margaritas in Mexico, claims the confrontation got so heated that someone had to physically step between Phylicia and Tempest to stop it from turning physical. Even more haunting, Malcolm allegedly overheard the shouting, ran in, and said, "We need peace, not this, not again, sir." What exactly happened before? Because that one line has sent the internet spiraling into full-blown conspiracy mode, and here is where it gets downright airy. That confrontation reportedly happened just 4 hours before Malcolm's body was found floating near a secluded California beach. 4 hours, not 4 days, not 4 weeks, 4 hours. Coincidence? Please, we do not deal in coincidences here, we deal in receipts, and this, baby, is where the whole story starts to unravel. Rewind it back. Multiple insiders, all anonymous, of course, have now stepped forward claiming Malcolm had been quietly distancing himself from Tempest in the months before his death. Alleged text messages between Malcolm and a close confidant, a former producer from Read Between the Lines, show this was not just tension, this was darkness. In one message, just 2 weeks before everything went down, Malcolm supposedly wrote, "I can't keep pretending things are fine with her. Every conversation feels like she's hiding something. I don't believe half of what she's saying, especially about Bill, as in Bill Cosby. Yes, that ghost is still haunting this circus, and now it is seeping right into the center of this mess, because some sources claim Tempest was one of the only cast members still keeping private contact with Bill even after his world imploded, while the rest of the crew, Malcolm, Phylicia, and others, publicly distanced themselves. Tempest stayed quiet. Too quiet. Word is she was playing both sides like a PR chess master. One unnamed industry veteran put it colder than ice: she knew where the skeletons were buried, and who buried them, and now, we are standing in the middle of a storm made of secrets, silence, and a legacy that refuses to stay buried. Then came the voicemail, not officially verified yet, but already spreading like wildfire in the shadowy corners of Reddit and deep dive Twitter threads. The recording allegedly came from Malcolm himself, just hours before his death, and in it, he says, "If anything happens to me, don't let her speak at my funeral. She doesn't deserve the mic." He did not name her, but the internet is doing the math, and all arrows point directly at that fiery showdown with Tempest earlier the same day. And remember the whispers about Phylicia collapsing at Malcolm's funeral? Turns out that moment might not have been just about grief. Sources claim she lost it after seeing Tempest seated front and center, despite Phylicia allegedly begging organizers to block her from even entering the building. But wait, it gets colder. A little birdie says that when Tempest stood up to speak, Phylicia rose from her seat and said, "You have no right to speak on his soul. Sit down." Silence, complete silence. Even Malcolm's own mother reportedly turned her face away in that moment. One stunned guest posted a cryptic IG caption later: "I've never seen a funeral wreck people like that. Secrets spilled, tears fell. Truth hit like a slap." So what truth cracked that room? And half rumor has it Malcolm had been working on a no-holds-barred documentary titled Behind the Sitcom Smile, an unfiltered deep dive into the pain, trauma, and betrayals behind those polished 80s and 90s laugh tracks. And allegedly, Tempest begged him to leave her out of it. One insider claims she even offered to help fund the project, but only if her name was cut. Malcolm refused. Then came the plot twist that would make a screenwriter blush: the finished footage, gone, hard drives stolen, cameras missing, files wiped, all after a mysterious break-in just 2 days after Malcolm's death. You could not make this up, and if you did, nobody would believe it. Now let's talk real motive. Was it a freak accident? Maybe a mental break that spiraled out of control? Possibly. But what if it was something darker, a desperate move to silence Malcolm before he could expose the kind of truth that would have set every screen in America on fire? Let's not be naive. This is Hollywood, where image is currency, and secrets are buried in designer coffins. One uncut confession, one buried tape, one wrong flashback, and it becomes a smoking gun capable of burning entire legacies to the ground. And if Phylicia's warning to Tempest really was as sharp as, "You're about to find out the hard way," then maybe she knew far more than any of us are ready to handle. So where does that leave us? A beloved star gone too soon, a documentary vanished without A trace and a cast of suspects moving like they are stuck in a script that lost its final page, and honestly, that might be the darkest twist of all, because if Malcolm Jamal Warner, actor, activist, survivor of this ruthless industry, could not outrun the shadows chasing him, then who possibly can? Or maybe the real question is, who will? Because after all the warnings, the leaks, the whispers, and the silence, there is only one question left worth asking: was this tragic timing, or a Hollywood hit job whispered in hushed tones? Because when secrets start spilling right before someone ends up dead, that is not just a red flag, that is a full-blown crime scene in couture. And in this timeline, it is looking messier than a fake PR marriage imploding on Instagram Live. So tell me this: why did Phylicia Rashad suddenly feel so pressed to break her silence just hours before Malcolm's death? Why did Tempest disappear in his final moments, only to reappear once the storm exploded? And the scariest question of all, who's next? This is not a scripted sitcom, honey, this is real-life betrayal behind the smiles, tension buried under awards, and decades of drama detonating in front of a casket like some unaired Netflix expose. But do not just take my word for it, sound off in the comments. Was this just a tragic twist of fate? Or is someone in the Cosby circle hiding secrets darker than we ever imagined? If you are ready for even more truths to drop, smash that like button and hit subscribe before the Hollywood machine wipes this story clean. Turn those notifications on, because the next expose will be messier than a leaked group chat with no filters and way too many receipts. This is not gossip, this is survival mode. Stay woke, stay watching, and most of all, stay dangerous. See you in the next video.